Hey, wine mermaids. This is the Peace, Love, and Wine podcast, bringing you happy hour conversations with awesome women on self-care, sisterhood, and creative living to reduce stress and maximize joy. Life is short, so grab a glass and get ready to sip, sparkle, and make a splash. Make sure to visit peaceloveandwine.com and enter your email to receive VIP deals and get your free self-care download. Now, here's your wine sister hostess with the mostest, Tiffany Humfeld.
Hi there, everybody. Welcome to another episode of our virtual happy hour retreat series. I'm excited to be here today with Krimitsos, business strategist and leader of the Biz Women Rock community, as well as podcaster of the Biz Women Rock podcast. So, yay, we finally made it happen.
Yay! Oh my goodness.
Here.
It only took a few months to find the time, but to find the matchup of the calendars. But I'm so honored to be here. This is very special topic to my heart, and I think for anyone who is really a go-getter in business. So thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So I know one of the things that a lot of women face is burnout at some point in their careers. Even kids sometimes face it in high school and college. So tell me a little bit about some of your burnout stories and kind of what happened and then how you overcame it.
So I have a lot of them. And I have a lot of them because I am constantly moving at like 1,000 miles a minute. Like there's big stuff I want to do in the world always, ever since I was a little girl. So I'm constantly like, I used to have that mentality of you can sleep when you die. Come on, let's go. So one story in particular is that my journey as a business owner started back in 2009. I had come out of corporate, basically quit my job because my then boyfriend and now husband had just started a local entrepreneurs organization. He had started it about 9 months prior. And I kind of quit my job thinking, well, I'm not happy there. So let's just put both of us in here working on the business that he already started, had a business model for. It was going well, but it was a startup. Let's just put both of our time and energy on it, and we can really get it to where we need to go faster. Fast forward about, 3 years. Fast forward about 2.5, 3 years. While the business itself was doing pretty well, it was not we had not yet learned that lesson of paying ourselves yet. Mm-hmm. So our personal finances were just like crazy scary. And I, back in those days, hadn't yet learned the lesson of financial abundance, hadn't yet learned the lesson of like, everything will always work itself out and like just believe in more and there's plenty of money for everyone. I hadn't figured that out yet. So instead what I was doing is all I was doing was like staring at the financials, or I was staring at our bank account, our personal bank account going, oh my God, I have enough cash in there for like 2 more months to pay my mortgage. That was like my runway. Right. And that freaked me out like nobody's business. And so, I made the very tough decision to go get a job, which is sort of like, you know what? It's kind of that thing, like you do what you got to do, but it's, for me, it was incredibly, what's the word? Like it was shameful to me because I was in the space of being around all entrepreneurs. And if you're a real entrepreneur, you just go for it 1,000%. And like, you never go back and get a job, right? You'll make it work. And there was so much shame around me going back and getting a job. Fast forward, I went back and I got a job. And I did not choose anything that would have been a clock in, clock out type of a job. I just kind of took what was working and folding out in front of me pretty well. And it was working for another startup company, but right. But who actually had a salary to pay me and all that sort of stuff. So, and my skills could lend themselves to that startup company. So it definitely was not a 9-to-5 job. It was more like a 7 a.m. until I could just finish things up and get out of the office. And then what I would do is I would go from that office to our local company's office. And I would show up there for my regular day of work at, 6 o'clock at night. And I would work there until 3 a.m. sometimes just to get done whatever needed to get done. And I did that for 5 months, which was crazy nuts. And it doesn't take too much stretch of the imagination to figure out why I got burnt out and what happened, but it just was totally not sustainable. And most importantly, I hated it. Like I hated going to that job. I hated it. Now, it ended up bringing in some revenue to our household, so I could pay off a little bit of debt. I could extend my runway a little bit. And it did what it had to do, but like, it was just not a pleasant experience.
Yeah, and I've sometimes considered, on months that have been trickier about the job thing. And it's just like, it's like admitting failure or something,
Yeah, seriously. And, I think a lot of business women deal with that. And the surprising thing is I happen to just have been part of conversations recently where a lot of women are still working the full-time job so that they can fund their side hustle. And the goal is to really get that, to take over. And there's a certain level of respect. I have had so much respect for the women who don't diminish it, who are just like, yep, this is what it is right now. And it's part of the journey and that's okay. And whereas that's definitely not where I was. No one knew. I would not let my husband tell anyone. I was not telling anyone. I remember I think during that time I must have had like a birthday party or something. And I invited all my, entrepreneurial friends. And then somebody from work was just like, oh, you're having heard me over say something about a party. Oh, we're going to be on that beach. We should stop by. I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to do it? Oh, this is just my friend. We know each other. It was so awkward. So I was just really ashamed, which there's no shame in that, but yeah.
Right. Yeah, and I think as more and more people talk about this too, it's like, okay, yeah, duh. It's just, you do what you got to do. And sometimes that includes having to get a J.O.B.
Sometimes, I'm not an advocate for it because especially if you've got a business running already, I do believe that there are smart ways to lean into what is working so you can really explode that and get focused in on it. But there are definitely times that call for it. So, just letting it be whatever it needs to be.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, sure. So talk about if you can think of anything specifically about that lean in. What would the lean in look like? Let's say something's working, but it's a very small something, right? And it's like, how do we latch onto that so that we can afford to not go get a job?
Absolutely. I love this is a sweet space of what I love talking about. This is a larger conversation of a strategy, but I'll give you an example. One of my clients, she does interior design. And so what she was doing before we started working together is she was sort of running the gamut of everything, like every service you could possibly provide. She was doing it and charging for it, making money doing it. So she was earning really good money, but 80% of her time was doing stuff that she didn't really love doing. So I'm going to equate that to sort of the side hustle job, right? Like you just do it because it makes money and you're in it. So you kind of feel like you need to do it. And then 20% of the job she really loved, but it was the smallest amount of revenue, right? So what we did and as far as leaning in is we got just really clear about like what her ideal package was. Like, hey, if you could do anything and money were no object, that's where I really always start with clients. Like if money were no object, you were independently wealthy, what would you do? And so most often, this is why I love working with really passion-driven and purposeful women entrepreneurs is because most of the time it's doing what we already do. Mm-hmm. And so it just got really clear about what that was because there was no formal offer. There was no formal package that she had for it. It was just sort of like, oh, I just do this, this, and this. And so what we did is and this would be a recommendation for anyone watching, is like, just get really clear on what that thing is, what it looks like, what the benefits, what the features are, come up with a price point that, you can kind of tie it in a little bow, like, and here's a price point. And then sort of think like, is there a way, like an upsell for something that's related to this that I still love doing that would just maybe be another step or two? And then do more of that. Offer more of that. And just going through that process of getting super clear on what that offer is allows you to start seeing where those opportunities now are in front of you that you couldn't see because you're too overwhelmed with all those other 80% of things that you really don't want to be doing. Yeah. Because you just kind of need to say yes to the money. And it allows all of those potential people to be attracted towards you because you know exactly how you can help them and exactly what the benefits are. So it allows you to just talk about that easier. And then you can get into like pouring the gasoline of marketing on it, running some Facebook ads specifically for that thing going and doing some collaboration specifically for that thing, becoming known as the expert for that specific thing. And that's where it starts producing some serious results. So even something that might be a lower price point, i.e. isn't a quote unquote salary at a day job, has real potential to explode if you really get zoned in on what it is, who it benefits, and then go off and do some targeted marketing for that.
Okay. Can I ask you a strategy question then?
Go, girl.
It came to mind. My, one thing I'm doing with Peace, Love, and Wine is my boho boxes, my self-care sisterhood retreats in a box.
Yep.
But, it really doesn't make that much sense to keep going with it unless I have at least 200 subscribers a month. It's a lot of work curating. And since I have handcrafted items, like that takes time and coordination. So, but I love the concept. People who get it, love it. It's just a matter of people knowing it exists, right? And it's, I make when I allow for room for discounts and whatnot, I make about $10 to $15 a box. And so that's a lot of boxes you got to sell to make any significant money, right?
Yeah. Yep.
But I love that. And I'm not ready to give up on it because I have been doing it less than a year, right?
Yeah.
So I can see that being the first item or the smaller item, the foot in the door item. And then I'm working on building some women's entrepreneurial retreats too.
There you go. And those are higher ticket items, right? And people who buy that first, retreat box, basically that self-care box, or might be good potential people to come into that retreat. So, so what's the question?
The question is,
because I have ideas, but what's the question?
Yeah. I'd love to still focus on that. Maybe that's the right thing. Maybe it's not, but people don't know it exists. So the money isn't coming in how I would like it to right now.
Yeah. So the leaning in my opinion would be, while they are good lead-ins for each other, that's what you're talking about is not with your box. That's not like a lead magnet. Like that's a certified product and business model, right? The subscription box service model. Mm-hmm. So, if you really wanted to set that on fire, then it becomes, okay, if the product is great, I know the out the door cost or the profits per, I know what my costs are, I know all that sort of stuff. And I know that I can, I would first work with like, how can I automate this to maybe get some of the costs down so that I have a higher profit margin? And then it becomes marketing. And by the way, this is literally every single businesswoman or entrepreneur in general, their biggest challenge. Like marketing is the juice. Marketing is the gasoline with how you make a bonfire versus light a matchstick. That is the difference. So it is marketing, and you can interchange the terms of visibility, like a visibility campaign. But it literally is, how do you get this idea to the masses? Right. So that gets into specific strategy, like maybe identifying things. I always start with like what's native to the type of business model that you have. So I could give you all sorts of ideas. I'm an online business person, so I could give you all sorts of ideas about, one-on-one type of work and using Facebook for this, and having a paid membership type of a community, and having an education type of a platform, how to use Facebook ads for this. And like, I could give you all that stuff all day long. But my first question to clients is always like, well, what does other successful business models like yours do? What do they do well? So, that immediate thing is, well, they, top of mind, they get on sponsors, or they become sponsors on podcasts. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people get like, okay, well, yeah, you subscribe to this. And maybe if they hear you over and over again, that'd be perfect. So what podcasts are ideal for the women who would be buying that? You yourself, gets into us like visibility and PR. Mm-hmm. Being the personal brand of your business. What kind of PR activities do you need to do? Do you need to be a guest on podcasts? I obviously talk about podcasts a lot, but do you need to be featured in a particular magazine or a publication? Do you need to somehow make it on the Today Show? Like, do you need to be in your local, top 20 best gifts for Christmas type of things, or even in a national type of a list? Mm-hmm. There's so many creative ways to do purposeful targeted marketing that don't all sound like, run a Facebook ad and wait, have it run for 7 days. Like that absolutely works, by the way. And you could get really creative with just ads, but it has everything to do with backing into what do subscription-based businesses like you're talking about, what have they done and how have they gotten that kind of visibility?
I know a lot of them have done influencer marketing. And that
yep.
Thing, which means, and I've done some stuff. I've also done local, sorry, I'm trying to plug my deal in here. Local auctions for, donations for events and whatnot. I don't think, even though I enjoy doing that, I don't think it's a really good ROI, the donation thing. They're not
because
really
it's
working to.
Because the subscription model is really big. Like it's like, small thing. It's like the masses, right? So
right, it's high volume.
But what you can do is be really strategic, maybe have like multi-phased strategy plans. Like your first strategy plan is like to get you to break even. So how many people do you need subscribing to break even? Then what is the fastest and most impactful way to go get, I don't know what that number is. You mentioned 200. So let's just say it's 100 or maybe a 50. Okay. So how do you get 50 people? Then it's not a global campaign. It's like, who I know 50 women who would do this and love this. How can I go make sure that I can create a personal ask, or can I create some sort of a discount offer for them just to get them going and get it started? So you sort of have a like proof of concept first. So that I kind of call that like the low hanging fruit phase, but like know what that number is, know what your break even point is, and then get creative about like, who do you have around you? Who's the lowest hanging fruit? Who knows you? Who already knows, loves, and trusts you? Who you don't have to, you don't have to show up a certain way all the time. They already know that anything that you're doing is awesome. So get them on board, and then let that teach you how to then go into phase 2, which is going to be more along the lines of, strategically thinking, like exactly what we were talking about. Like, let's back into a marketing plan that's ideal according to what does work for boxes like these and subscription companies like these. I'm sure you could list probably 6 or 7 kind of visibility campaigns that those types of boxes and subscription services have done. How have they done it well? Is this something like a Groupon? Is this something like, I don't even know where else, but, you've seen them already. So back into, is that something that I could do? And let me give that a try and let's test, Yeah.
Okay. That's a good idea. Yeah. And the ones, there is a marketplace specifically for subscription boxes and people who are fans of them. And that marketplace actually does a huge amount of social media promoting. I've seen my own box listed on an ad in Instagram, right?
Excellent.
Probably some things that make that, but it's still really fun to see it.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen like a huge conversion though. So then I'm like, okay, well, is it that the concept doesn't work, or is it just I'm not hitting enough people? Maybe I'm not the right price point. It's a little tricky.
Yeah, it's a little tricky. And especially when if you still haven't figured out like your marketing funnel, meaning like you don't know the ways that sort of line up your sales metrics, like you don't know like, oh, if I put $100 on that ad, it brings in X amount of people who then buy X amount of things. We're all kind of constantly trying to figure that out so we can then just rinse and repeat. So if you haven't yet figured that out, your best bet with marketing is just doing the most commonsensical types of actions and pay attention, like give them a timeline, do some testing. I call, business for me is a giant experiment all the time. Like, let me experiment and see how this goes. And then if it runs well, I don't know if that marketplace has if you're getting anything from it, or if they even have the possibility to maybe do ads. So you show up a little higher, like, let's test that out and see if something like that works. That, you don't lose by testing out $50 here, $100 here, whatever that might be, to $5, $10. It doesn't really matter, to try a platform and see how it works. And then ask yourself, well, did that not work because of the copy, because of the picture, because of the time that I did it? And, you start to kind of get really sophisticated really quickly over a particular way to market and advertise. Same thing with podcast interviews, like, or any, even a blog tour for you. Like, you can, it's an old campaign, but you talked about the influencer idea. Like, search around and look for people who are influencers in the space of self-care, of promoting self-care, and get creative about like, hey, how can I create a relationship with them? And what I would do actually for you is get real strategic about finding the people who are not giant, but they're kind of just under here, meaning they would still really like, they haven't had a gazillion pitches to them already. Like I actually know a woman who has a Facebook group. This is another cool specific idea of how to do this. If you can find people who own Facebook groups, who are the administrators of Facebook groups who focus in on women's self-care, I know one off the top of my head, and approach her and say, hey, I'm very interested in advertising to your community. Can we talk? Because what I have is perfect for your ladies. Like, are you open to talking about that? I mean, that is a really good being able to go deep with one very specific strategy versus spaghetti on the wall type of marketing, right?
Right. And you can maybe do it even as an affiliate type model so that you're not putting a bunch of cash out before knowing if it works. Right?
Yeah, totally. And then you'll find, some people will say straight up no, and some people will say, hey, let's talk. And then you just never know what can possibly come out of that conversation.
All right. Cool. All right. That's a good idea.
Yay.
Let's move back to not about me, but talking about you.
But this is what I love doing. This is all in the clarity.
In your talents.
Yeah, really. This is all in the, I'm just so big on clarity, and we're going to talk about, stepping into the things that you really do love. I mean, that I consider that self-care. Like, stop doing stuff you don't love to do, in your work and in your play and in your general life. Like, stop doing it. Keep leaning into the things that you really love doing. I love strategy. I get so juiced up over helping women see what they can't necessarily see by themselves, because none of us can. We all need somebody else on the outside to sort of reflect back at us and give us ideas that we never would have thought of. I love that. So yes, that's why
coaching is important, right? Even coaches have coaches.
Totally. And I do too. So, I believe in it, and my clients believe in it, obviously. So that's really great.
Awesome. Okay. Well, speaking of those things, and I'm really glad you brought up play, because that's one thing I'm really big on, adult recess.
Nice.
How do you suggest people approach that, right? Because that could sound like, I need to change so many things and I just don't know where to start. So what do you suggest in terms of taking like a bite of the apple or the elephant?
To get playful, or to allow yourself time to play, or what do you mean specifically?
I'm sorry, not just play. I was just excited that you brought that up, but
yeah.
all those different things versus things in your work, maybe chores and things at home. You're wearing all the hats. How do you decide what to do when you need to take some off, and how to actually manage that both financially and time-wise?
Okay, so this is sort of a mix of intuitively knowing that you need to, and listening to that voice, and kind of a practical way to be able to see it. So I don't need to explain the intuitive part. Like, there are things you're doing that you know that you can't sustain, or they're not fun for you, or you just know it. You already know it. You know you need to give it up, and you're just not giving it up because maybe you're a control freak like me. Maybe that's been your duty all these years, and you don't know how to not do that. Maybe you feel like it's required of you in order to keep bringing in the revenue, or keep on, having the role in your marriage or relationship that you have. Or maybe that's the role you've always had as mommy. Like, whatever it is, you're just not stopping, and you need to. So intuitively, I would just know that and identify what those things are. Like, okay, I need to stop freaking doing my dishes. Like, I hate doing my dishes. You don't need to know the how yet. You don't need to know how, or how it's going to happen, or who's going to take over. You just don't need to know that. But like, really identify those things. Like, what are those things that I really don't enjoy doing, or I'm burnt out on? Mm-hmm. And then that sort of gets us into the practical side. Like, really write down this, I'm such a practical girl when it comes to like, let me write down what it is. This might be like taking an inventory of your life. And this is why it can feel cathartic and not overwhelming. If you take an inventory of, these are the things I don't really love doing anymore. These are the things that don't bring me joy. What happens is that it then gives you that space for you to sort of get it all out. And then what you can do, the second step that I would recommend, is go look at that list and say, who can I outsource this to? And I don't want you to get caught up in like, outsourcing is going to take money and I don't know if I can do that. Like, don't even worry about that. Just say like, who around me can do this? Because it might be your kids. It might be your spouse. It might be a friend. For example, like if you're like, hey, I need one more night or, afternoon without my kid. So it might be that your solution might end up being like, you have a neighbor and you both have kids and maybe you could do a mommy swap, you know?
Right.
So there's so many free solutions. So your job is to not get into the how yet. Your job is just to get it out. Like, who around you can sort of take those things over. If you don't want to do dishes anymore, like maybe you and your spouse can come up with an agreement on who does dishes when, or maybe you could say, dude, if you will take over dishes, I will put the laundry away, which I don't really love doing, but I absolutely love doing it more than I love doing dishes. You know, like maybe you can like work that type of stuff out, but it'll start to produce potential solutions for you. And then ask yourself, like, secondarily, are there people that I could barter with in order to do this? Like, there's a lot of really good outsourcing and bartering type of websites. Nextdoor is an app that all neighborhoods have. So like in your immediate neighborhood, are there high school kids that want to, you know, earn a couple extra bucks, all that sort of stuff. And then even for the outsourcing of real, like actually paying someone to do stuff, like recognize where your time and your value is. Mm-hmm. When my daughter was about 3 months old is when we first hired like an official babysitter. She started as a babysitter. And she would come once or twice a week, I think. And it was really because I had set a priority that my husband and I need to have a date night once a week. So I was like, okay, cool. So she started coming once or twice a week. It gave me and my husband time away. And it didn't take too long. It probably took like 3 months before I was like, so would you be interested in kind of like cleaning up the house, doing laundry, doing kitchen? Like, would you maybe even helping me with like, I'm notorious for like stuff that I need to send off in the mail, like stays on my, stays forever. Like kind of like, I call her my mommy helper. Like, would you be interested in doing that stuff? Cause if you're not, totally okay, I can find somebody else, but you're here. And I just figured if you're open for it, she said, absolutely. She's a total organizer. And so we worked out a new price that was not totally uncalled for. Like it was totally perfect and fair for her to come here and like be the mommy helper. So all of a sudden I don't have to do, 2 or 3 nights a week. Like I don't have to clean. I don't have to do dishes. If I wanted her to, I could have her make dinner. Like there's all that stuff that is now possible. And I just can work it in and I'll budget it some way, somehow, right. Because then I can spend that time, most importantly, being with my husband, spending time with my daughter. I can't tell you how many times I've been here. And she usually comes like in the evening and my husband is gone and my daughter and I are just sitting on the couch and she's straightening up. And I'm like, I tell her every time, I'm like, I thank you for giving me this time with my daughter. Like just what a blessing that is, because that's where my value is. Like I'll pay you all day long to clean my house and to organize me and to get my clothes ready, because that means I don't have to do it now. And then I can go to work as soon as my daughter goes to sleep and then find that money. I can find the money to pay her to do all of this stuff. So it all sort of starts working around. So how to baby step into it is don't let yourself get too overwhelmed with all of these things that you may not want to be doing, but at least have the catharsis of getting them out, and then strategically start asking yourself how just one by one, you can start maybe divvying them out or having a new agreement with your spouse or, whatever that is.
That's a good idea. Yeah. I mean, I think even, what do we call that if you don't have kids?
Child free is the word that I've always heard. Yeah.
I meant like the assistant. It's not a mommy helper. It's I don't know.
Personal assistant. No joke. I have one of my clients she has a personal assistant company. Like that's what they do.
Nicole, right?
Nicole's one of them. She has a concierge company, which is a little bit more like higher end and a little bit more customized. But I have another client, Amanda Broadway, who's amazing, who has Life Squire. It's here I'm in Florida, and it's here in the Bradenton, Manatee, Sarasota area. But her sweet spot is helping women, like ambitious business women. Doesn't have to be an entrepreneur by any means, but like the busy businesswoman, the executive woman who's coming home from work at this time, she's managing kids, and they hire her to go in and take care of whatever they need to, like literally from A to Z, everything. So the point, and it's actually like quite reasonable. So the point is that there are resources to help you do what you don't really love to do, and it's zapping your energy from the things that you really do love to do.
Right. That's a good idea. Yeah. duh, personal assistant. Remember those things, they exist.
Yeah. And what you could do is an easy thing is go onto Nextdoor, the app, and just ask, like, guys, I'm looking, anyone, can you recommend a personal assistant in this area? I love that app because it gets so local. And so people will tell you the real, like, hey, I use this person, they were amazing. Or I don't use this person, you know? So.
Yeah, I love that. And the fact that it is so local, makes it easier for both parties. And it's also one of those things where, you know, maybe it's only an hour a week that you start with, you know?
So true. So if you can be like, I just want somebody to come over and do my laundry. Okay. Hour or two. Okay. So I don't know, whatever that per hour, you know, price is, but like you can afford that. Figure a way that the worst thing that you hate doing, like that, just, I don't want to do it anymore. If I have to clean one more freaking bottle, I might go crazy, but like, okay, how can I just get somebody to come over and make that a part of what they do? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just start with that one thing.
It's a great idea. Yeah. I have a goal in mind, even though we live in a tiny place, I have a goal that next year somebody else is going to clean the house, because we clean it, but we don't deep clean it. Right.
Yeah.
It needs to happen every once in a while.
Yes. Seriously.
And I hate it. And it takes me so much longer than the pros. Right. Yeah.
And your time, I know, you know, quote unquote successful women preach this all the time, but like, truthfully, like that's not where, like, don't spend your time doing things that you don't love and don't make you money. Like really don't. And so, and even if you're starting little by little, just the practice of it is so liberating.
That's great. Yeah. I mean, it could even be, you take the baby steps because you just want to train yourself that it's okay. Right. Like, even if you don't feel like you have the money, then it helps you, one, figure out a way, and two, like, yeah, ease into it. So it's not scary and you don't feel like, oh, I have to hire an employee and then I have to figure out how to make sure that they're fed 40 hours a week. Right.
No, you did. That is jumping off the cliff. Like just start with one little thing, one little hour, one little task, whatever it is.
Yeah. Okay. What is the single most important thing you do when it comes to managing your mind? When there's resistance in life and business, or you have like a procrastination thing happening?
Hang on. I don't think I have it near me. I journal. I journal a lot. I'll give you an example. So one of my other clients, Lisa Hetrick, is an amazing artist, and she creates this is one of her products, but she's an artist. She'll do all sorts of different stuff, but I'm a big journaler. So I bought some journals from her. And so
on your podcast, by the way.
Oh, she's so amazing. She's awesome. And so I journal a lot. That's not everyone's mode of being able to deal with stuff, but I journal a lot. So anytime that I use it as a space to kind of train my mind on what is possible, even if I can't see it, like it's a lot of like self-talk, like good self-talk, like affirmations. And I'll do a lot of tricks in there, or just like writing prompts of like writing into the future. Like my Biz Women Rock retreat is coming up next week. And like, I'm constantly writing about what life looks like the week after. Here's what happened at the retreat. It was so amazing. And blah, blah, blah. Like, so it just gets my mindset in the frame of like, it's going to be, of course it's going to be awesome. I've already written it out. And there's a gazillion other kind of types of writing prompts that I have, but it's kind of extracting what's in here and like, telling myself, no, this is how it's going to be, because it's all here, you know, what we can and can't do is here. So, and then the other thing that I do that I have done for decades now, but have not had a regular practice of it for a long time is meditation. Mm-hmm. And I've been doing this a lot lately. One of my friends has an awesome meditation podcast that's perfect for busy people. It's called Meditation Minis. It's my girlfriend, Shell Hamilton. She's amazing. And they're like 7 to 10 minute podcasts episodes. And it doesn't really even matter what the topic is, truthfully. Like her voice is just so beautiful and it's like liquid and it'll just, having that structure of a guided meditation is really nice to like, not just like feel like there are times where I'm just put the timer on for 10 minutes and like get real quiet and really concentrate on my breath. But that process is so powerful to get me out of the space of ego, right? Which is like hustle, not enough, oh my gosh, fear. And it gets me into a place of belief, hope, abundance. It may only last a couple of minutes after the meditation, but it's a really good practice that I keep on getting better and better at. So I do that. I have been doing that every day for quite a while now.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, and that's part of the thing is it's just that building that brain muscle, the habit formation. So even if it's 2 minutes, but you're consciously making the decision and dedicating the time. Same with working out. You know, we have an Amazon Echo, and they have these 7-minute workouts on there that I love. Like they're hard, right? But if life gets in the way, that's one way to quickly solve it. So you're still making progress. And that's how I like to think of goals too. Instead of the end result, even though, yes, I know I want to get there, it's the progress. Did I take the right actions? Because I can't necessarily control the outcome, but I can control the actions. Right?
That is gold right there. It's so true. I heard Oprah talking on her podcast recently about kind of what helped her learn that lesson of showing up and giving her all and then completely letting go of the outcome. And it is a process. I'm still not, great at it, but I feel like I'm good and I keep on getting better at it. But, it is. But when you just see, like, I get to, like, let me just keep showing up. I just commit to keep showing up. Like, I'm going to keep showing up. And on day, 5, things are going downhill. And on day 6, they're amazing. And on day 20, they're going downhill again. But it's like, if you can do that practice of relinquishing yourself from the outcome and just keep showing up and committed to being the best you that you could be. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that just means like, okay, dragged your butt out of bed and got some clothes on. And that means that's the showing up for that day. And that's okay, So.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I think we should probably wrap it up. So do you have any last final words you'd like to share, words of wisdom on being a female entrepreneur or a mompreneur that you think our ladies need to hear?
Yeah. You use the term burnout for this summit. And I think burnout is a feeling that ultimately is a red flag. It's a red flag that tells us something's out of alignment for us. And so I think that you're watching this, that means you identified with that burnout word, which means that that's a really good thing because you're here learning about what you can do to get beyond that, what you can do to transcend that. I think that burnout is going to happen in some way all throughout your life, but it's a matter of doing it a little bit better and coming out of it, rising from those ashes a little bit better, every single time. And so I think that, being a hard driving businesswoman, being somebody who is really ambitious and kind of wants to do really great stuff in this world, like I don't think that there's a moment when it becomes quote unquote, like easy, but it becomes simple, everything becomes a little bit more simplified. And sometimes, I still have not mastered this. I think that this is a life journey of mastering, but it's just the understanding that that you're constantly, the biggest lesson I think that I can leave everyone with is to really bring out the best of what you really want, like you want it all. And how do you make that happen without getting burnt out? The number one trick that I always use is really scheduling it. And Tiffany knows how much I preach about this, but I am just such a believer that if you can identify what your values are, and what you need, like get that stuff in your calendar and get it on recurring because
before anything else,
but and just try it first. Doesn't mean you have to commit to it. Try it for a week and see how it feels. When I did that immediately when my daughter was, I don't remember how many months old, but my husband and I were like, we kept talking about like, oh yeah, we need to go out on more date nights. And it would happen intermittently. But once I got that thing on the calendar for every Saturday night, it mostly happens, it makes such a difference. It's different if I say like, oh, I'm going to get in shape, whatever, but it's different when you put that darn thing in your calendar on when you're going to do it. So if family time is really important for you, put it in your calendar that's going to be family time. And if, working on this specific thing is going to be really important for you in your business, put that in your calendar because what it does is it prioritizes that stuff and it relinquishes you from having to think about anything else. Like we women are not well known for being able to focus. Like we've got 80,000 things happening in our mind at one time. But don't you know that when I have a workout on my schedule, I'm not worrying about everything else because that's my time to work out. And when I have mommy-daughter time on my schedule, I totally let myself not worry about anything else because that's dedicated mommy time, because I'm going to worry about those things, or I'm going to do the other things that are floating in my head during that time over there. So I'll worry about it then. So there's just so much practical and emotional and spiritual relief and benefit that come from really getting things down on a schedule. And I think that's where you can really hit on all cylinders. And and it never happens 100%, by the way, but I'm just an advocate of constantly letting that be a foundation, letting your calendar, letting your schedule be a foundation for what you want to see flourish in your life.
I agree. I am a huge advocate for that and working on getting better and better at it. And I think that is a thing that can save so many women's sanity. I think part of it too is for perfectionists, especially, not getting stuck on the fact that it's on the calendar. If it's not working, like you said, give it a week, see if it works.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that there's not flexibility in it, but just be dedicated to it for as long as you decide that you're going to try it out, right? And
yep.
If it doesn't work, okay, I'm not giving up. I'm just realizing that's not working, and now I'm going to pivot, right?
Yep. That's the thing about just about anything for women in general, but definitely for business women, is like, just don't judge. Like, just put the best out there. And then again, letting go of the outcome. Like, the outcome could be that it falls flat on its butt, your schedule, your product, your whatever. Like, okay, that's the rub, is like, how do you not personify that? How do you not take that on? And how do you just allow it to be like, okay, let's figure this out. What did I learn? How can I do it better? And let me turn around and go again,
Cool. So, great advice.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here, Katie. How can people find you if they want to learn more?
They can find me at bizwomenrock.com. That is definitely kind of where you will find everything for me. And most specifically, right now, and just because it pertains to what we're talking about, most especially with the scheduling and really getting things rolling for the upcoming year, I actually have a totally free success kit. It's called the 2018 Success Kit that I would love to offer to everyone watching. And it's at bizwomenrock.com/2018 Success Kit.
It's almost like you've been putting that into my subconscious this entire time. Sitting on the wall behind you.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Tiffany. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Take care. Have a great time at your live retreat.
Hello, Mer people. Thanks for listening to the podcast. I just wanted to pop in and ask you to do me a huge favor. If you're enjoying the show, please go to iTunes or wherever you leave your reviews and post a review and rating there for me. That way more people can find our little mer habitat here on the internet and enjoy our sisterhood, self-care, creativity, and biz boss badassery. If you want to learn more about our exciting upcoming events, gifts, wine, and all the fun things that are Peace, Love, and Wine, send me an email, info@peaceloveandwine.com, or go to peaceloveandwine.com and enter your name to win something fun and get a free self-care download.